Von Miller is finally coming home to Texas, but the Dallas Cowboys are not signing the version of Miller who terrorized quarterbacks in Denver, won Super Bowl MVP, and became one of the defining pass rushers of his generation. That player no longer exists. Dallas is betting that what remains, a fast first step, an advanced understanding of protection, and 15 years of pass rushing knowledge can still repair one of the defense's biggest weaknesses. This is not the Cowboys finding a replacement for Micah Parsons. It is Dallas admitting that replacing Parsons with one player was never realistic. The Cowboys have officially signed Miller for his 15th NFL season. Contract terms have not been disclosed, so the financial risk cannot yet be evaluated. Miller is 37 years old, an 8-time Pro Bowl selection, and the active NFL leader with 138.5 career sacks. That total places him tied for 9th on the league's official career list. He has appeared in 203 games, accumulated 271 quarterback hits, and forced 27 fumbles. He won a championship with the Denver Broncos, earned Super Bowl 50 MVP honors, and later helped the Los Angeles Rams win another title. There is also an obvious homecoming element. Miller is a Texas native who played college football at Texas A&M. Joining Dallas gives one of the most accomplished defenders of his generation an opportunity to complete the final stage of his career near home. That makes the story more attractive. It is not the primary reason the football move makes sense. Dallas needed another pass rusher because its first season without Parsons exposed how difficult it is to create pressure without a true defensive centerpiece. The Cowboys traded Parsons to Green Bay shortly before the 2025 season. They attempted to replace his production through a collection of veterans, young players, and scheme-generated pressure. The results were not good enough. Dallas finished with 35 sacks, tied for 22nd in the NFL. Jadeveon Clowney led the team with 8.5, while James Houston added 5.5 despite working as a rotational defender. The larger defensive numbers were even more concerning. The Cowboys allowed 30.1 points per game and surrendered 511 total points. Opponents converted approximately 47% of their third downs, while Dallas also finished at or near the bottom of the league in several major passing defense categories. Those problems cannot all be blamed on the departure of one player. Coverage breakdowns, inconsistent communication, and a lack of complementary pressure contributed to the decline. But trading Parsons removed the defender who could most frequently disrupt a play before those other weaknesses became visible. An elite pass rusher changes the mathematics of a defense. He forces offenses to slide protection in his direction. Running backs and tight ends become part of the blocking plan. Quarterbacks speed up their internal clock. Offensive coordinators adjust formations and route combinations before the game even begins. Parsons provided all of that while still possessing the athleticism to chase quarterbacks, defend the run, and move throughout the formation. Miller cannot provide the same complete package at 37. Dallas should not ask him to. The Cowboys' new defensive identity must be based on volume and variety rather than one superstar. New defensive coordinator Christian Parker is building a multiple front that can send pressure from different alignments instead of depending on one player to defeat protection on every important down. The current group contains several different pieces. Rashan Gary offers veteran power and experience. James Houston has already demonstrated that he can produce from a rotational role. Donovan Ezeruaku remains a developmental option after recording 2 sacks as a rookie. The Cowboys also used the 23rd overall pick on Malachi Lawrence, an athletic edge defender from UCF. Lawrence brings an explosive first step and a collection of pass rush moves, but Dallas has acknowledged that his run defense and ability to set the edge still require development. Miller enters this group as a specialist, not as the entire solution. That distinction is important because Miller demonstrated in Washington that he can still produce when his workload is controlled. He recorded 9 sacks in 2025, leading the Commanders in that category. He produced those 9 sacks while operating primarily as a rotational pass rusher rather than an every-down defensive centerpiece. That is the model Dallas should attempt to recreate. Miller's greatest remaining strength is not his ability to survive 70 defensive snaps. It is his ability to identify a favorable matchup and attack it with a plan. Young edge rushers frequently depend on athleticism. They see the offensive tackle, choose a move, and attempt to win. Veteran rushers understand the larger structure. Miller can recognize a tackle's pass set, anticipate which direction the protection is sliding, and understand when a running back is preparing to chip him. He has spent more than a decade learning how quarterbacks move inside the pocket and how offensive linemen adjust after losing an early rep. That knowledge helps him win before the physical confrontation is complete. Miller can threaten the outside shoulder with his initial burst, force the tackle to open his hips, and then counter inside. He can use his hands to prevent the blocker from controlling his chest. He can also influence protection even when he does not record the sack. That last part is crucial. Dallas does not need Miller to reach the quarterback on every third down. If his alignment forces the offense to slide protection, another rusher receives a more favorable matchup. Imagine Miller aligned wide on one side, Gary or Lawrence attacking from the opposite edge, and Quinnen Williams creating interior disruption. The offense cannot provide additional help everywhere. If the center turns toward Williams, one of the edge rushers may receive a true one-on-one opportunity. If the running back chips Miller, the defense may have changed the offense's route structure before the ball is snapped. That is how a situational player can improve an entire front without producing 15 sacks himself. Miller's role should begin on obvious passing downs. On 3rd and long, Dallas can align him outside the tackle and allow him to focus almost entirely on reaching the quarterback. He could also be used late in games when an opponent is trailing and has been forced to abandon the running game. Those situations reduce the number of responsibilities Miller must handle. He does not have to read run action, anchor against a double team, and then transition into a pass rush. He can attack the snap with a much clearer objective. Dallas can also move him around. Miller does not need to rush from the same side on every play. Parker can identify the weaker offensive tackle, isolate a backup blocker, or use Miller in pass rush games with an interior defender. A stunt between Miller and Williams could be especially difficult to block. Williams has the power to occupy 2 offensive linemen, while Miller still possesses the anticipation to attack the space created by their movement. The goal should not be to recreate the physical version of Miller from 2015. It should be to maximize the mental and technical version that still exists in 2026. This approach can also help Lawrence. The rookie is one of the most important players in Dallas's post-Parsons plan. The Cowboys invested a first-round selection in him because they believe he can eventually become a major source of pressure. Miller can help him understand how that athletic ability translates to NFL competition. College edge rushers are often faster and more explosive than the offensive tackles they face. In the NFL, almost every starting tackle has enough size, balance, and recovery ability to survive an opponent's first move. Lawrence will need counters. He must learn how to build one rush from the previous attempt, how to disguise his intentions, and how to study an offensive lineman's habits. Few players are more qualified to teach those details than Miller. Leadership and mentorship should not be used to excuse poor performance. Dallas is signing a football player, not another assistant coach. But if Miller can still contribute on passing downs while accelerating Lawrence's development, his value becomes larger than his individual sack total. The Cowboys must also understand what Miller cannot be expected to provide. He should not automatically be projected as an every-down starter. He should not be responsible for setting a physical edge against the running game for 4 quarters. Dallas should not ask him to chase mobile quarterbacks across the field repeatedly or carry the heaviest snap count among its outside linebackers. Age affects recovery as much as it affects speed. A 37-year-old defender may still produce an explosive third-down rush, but maintaining that burst becomes more difficult when he has already played 40 or 50 snaps. Every unnecessary early down assignment could reduce his effectiveness in the situations where Dallas needs him most. That creates a weekly workload decision. If Miller is playing too much, it could mean the younger defenders are not developing quickly enough. If he is playing too little, Dallas may not receive enough production to justify the roster spot. The Cowboys must find the point where Miller remains fresh without becoming predictable. Offenses will recognize when he enters the game. If Dallas uses him only on 3rd and long, opposing coordinators can prepare specific protection calls for those situations. Parker must therefore create enough variation to prevent Miller's presence from revealing the defensive intention. Occasional early down snaps could help. Dallas can also drop another outside linebacker into coverage, simulate pressure, or move Miller before the snap. The objective is selective usage, not obvious usage. There are still significant risks. Miller has played for 3 teams in 3 seasons. That movement reflects the reality that teams now view him as a short-term specialist rather than a defensive foundation. He has not made a Pro Bowl or earned All-Pro recognition since 2019. His recent 9-sack season was encouraging, but sacks can be volatile. They do not automatically prove that a defender consistently created pressure on every passing down. Dallas must evaluate the complete film. Did Miller win quickly enough to affect the quarterback before the pass was released? Did he force quarterbacks to move away from their preferred spot? Could he still finish against athletic passers? How frequently did offenses successfully run toward him? Those questions matter more than the career resume. Availability is another concern. Miller has dealt with major injuries during the later portion of his career, and the Cowboys cannot assume that a reduced workload will guarantee a healthy season. Name recognition creates an additional danger. When a team signs a future Hall of Fame player, expectations can be shaped by what fans remember rather than what the player currently is. If Dallas treats Miller like the man who recorded 18.5 sacks in 2012, the plan will fail before the season begins. If the Cowboys treat him like a rotational defender who led Washington with 9 sacks in 2025, the projection becomes much more realistic. The timing of the move also reveals something about Dallas's urgency. The Cowboys have missed the playoffs in consecutive seasons. They finished 7-9-1 in 2025, despite an offense that moved the football and scored nearly 28 points per game. That imbalance placed enormous pressure on Dak Prescott and the offense. Dallas frequently needed to win high-scoring games because the defense struggled to create stops. A team cannot build a sustainable playoff path by requiring its quarterback to rescue it every week. Pass rush becomes especially important late in close games. When Dallas takes a fourth-quarter lead, the defense must force the opponent into predictable passing situations and then finish the possession. That is where Miller can affect the playoff equation. 1 third down pressure can force an incompletion. 1 sack can move an opponent out of field goal range. 1 strip sack can end a comeback attempt. Those individual plays do not guarantee a postseason appearance, but they can decide the games that separate a winning record from another disappointing season. Miller's championship experience also provides credibility when those moments arrive. He has won a Super Bowl as the central star of a defense and another as an important piece of a contender's midseason roster construction. He understands the difference between producing statistics and creating the play that changes a postseason game. Dallas hopes some of that experience transfers to a defense attempting to establish a new identity. But Miller cannot fix the secondary by himself. He cannot solve every third down communication problem or guarantee that young defenders develop on schedule. He also cannot erase the Parsons trade. The Cowboys are no longer built around one overwhelming edge rusher. Their new approach depends on Williams creating pressure inside, Gary and Houston supplying veteran production, Lawrence and Eze Ruaku developing, and Parker constructing favorable matchups. Miller is another piece of that structure. He may become an important one, but he cannot become the only one. That is the final verdict on the signing. This is more than a ceremonial Texas homecoming because Miller still produced 9 sacks last season. His first-step recognition, technical knowledge, and experience can improve Dallas on third down. But the move works only if the Cowboys understand its limitations. Miller should be protected from an every-down workload that's deployed in high-value passing situations and incorporated into a deep rotation. His presence should help Dallas create one-on-one matchups, not become an excuse to stop developing younger rushers. The Cowboys did not sign the next Micah Parsons. They signed a 37-year-old specialist who may still possess enough of what made him great to change several important plays. If Miller becomes the final piece of a balanced pass rush rotation, Dallas may have found real value late in the offseason. If the Cowboys expect a legend to carry the defense by himself, they will once again be asking one player to solve a problem that belongs to the entire organization.